260-1870 or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Good morning. All things legal. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud. Give us a call at 260-1870. We got Albert here. Hey, Albert.
Good morning, Doug. Got Doug here too this morning.
That's right. We're all here. We're all here today. What's happening on this weekend before Memorial Day weekend?
It's kind of chill actually. I didn't do a whole lot. I got a workshop in the back where I tinker, and I spent a little time yesterday cleaning it out, and it was quite a mess. And it's and I only put a little dent in it, but I might try a little bit more of that today. I do want to watch some basketball. Two game sevens today in the NBA. I was a little disappointed Dallas won last night. I was cheering for the small markets throughout. The Pacers, I hope, beat the Knicks. I hope. I hope the Pacers win. The OKC versus Dallas. I like to see the small market teams win. I'm tired of the NBA, doing everything they can to try to keep the Los Angeles, New York, big market teams in there for ratings and dollars. I like the fact that the small market teams are right in there into the conference semifinals. So,
yeah, Oklahoma City. They had a big lead in the second half. It seemed like a little youth. The youth of the team sort of just manifested in the fourth quarter, and but I mean they're good. Now, one thing I did notice: the Pelicans aren't anywhere close to those teams. In other words,
not even close.
Right. It's not like, gee, we should have beat this team. We could have made it to the finals or conference finals. There's clearly a large gap, between the two teams, and it seems like those teams have a certain amount of toughness and ruggedness that, in the playoffs, that maybe that's what the Pelicans need to.
The Pelicans need a lot more than that. They have no quickness on their team. I mean, I've said this over and over again. They're long. They've got some pretty good shooters. Zion is probably, honestly, one of the quickest. He and Alvarado, probably two of the players on the team that have any substantial type of quickness. People beat them to the basket regularly and just drop in layups. It's just they pride themselves on being a defensive team, and Herb Jones is great. He's got long arms. He's got quick hands. But he doesn't have the hips. I think when people go around him, and look, if you look at what OKC did in the playoffs, they said, we're going to make everybody else beat us, but we're going to double team Luka. We're going to make sure that Luka doesn't go off, and So I don't understand. There was something in it's called a jump stop, right? When you're playing defense. And if you're guarding a guy who's setting a pick on one of your players, you jump out to make sure that the guy with the ball doesn't, go past you, give your defender a chance to recover and go back and guard that player. Uh-huh. Pelicans didn't do it. Pelicans never did it. They always switched. And so you have Herb Jones guarding the best player on the other team, and they'll take CJ's man to set a pick, and then they'll switch. And now all of a sudden you've got the 30-something-year-old guarding their best player. Why do you switch? Jump stop him, make him shoot the long three, right? If that's what he wants to do, and have your defender, have Herb go behind him and stay on that guy and guard him. I don't understand the automatic switches on defense, anyway. Yeah. But they tell you what, this NBA playoffs, I have never, ever, ever seen the refs, even in the 70s, let them play like they're letting them play. Their fouls, they're getting away with grabbing guys by the arms while they're, and you can see them, them holding their arm while they're trying to defend them, and the offensive players trying to run away, and they're getting their arms held, and they're just not calling anything. Shots to the layup, you better hammer them. There better be something, top shots to the rim. It's amazing, and it's you got to adjust quick.
And there's nothing like Game 7s in the playoffs. It's just a different deal.
No question. No question.
So that's it. Yeah. And the Tigers look like they have done enough to get into the to the tournament. The 13-17. There's 4 other SEC teams who were 13-17. I think Vanderbilt, Florida, and South Carolina. So I think they're probably in also too, since they're 13-17. I think Vanderbilt may be in there. They have won 4 of their last 5 series, so they're have momentum. Yeah, they're trending upward. So it was when they were 3-12. We talked about it. Colin, I think we talked about it. We said they had to be either 10-5 and 11-2 in the SEC, right? So they were 10-5, and so I think LSU plays Colin at 9:30 on Tuesday morning.
9:30 Tuesday morning against Georgia. They're the 11th seed. Georgia's the 6th seed. If they win that game, get a single elimination in the first round. Because if they win that game, they're in doubles. So they've got a safety net. Then game 2 would be against the number 3 seed, Kentucky. Wednesday also at 9:30 in the morning. Then we can worry about those. Back to back.
All right, I'm gonna have to start moving my court schedule here. You think if I petitioned the judge to say I have to continue a case because the LSU game I have to watch, you think they'd buy it?
You gotta hope that.
No. Let's see what I have. No, I can't. Now I already blew it now because they'll know why I did it.
Yeah, right. You think that they're listening to the show, Doug?
That's true. That's true.
No, but I got to tell you, if it's slightly close, Tigers get in. NCAA wants the Tigers traveling because they will travel. They want the fans, setting drinking records and doing all that stuff. It makes for great college baseball and a lot of excitement. It adds so much more excitement than Stony Brook making it, right? So I think they're in for sure because the NCAA wants it to be, and they've got now a legitimate reason to get them in.
Right, and once you get in, it's a new deal, and the purpose of the regular season is to identify some arms for the playoff for the tournament and World Series, to figure out your lineup, but basically. It's a new season. So, nothing they did in the regular season once they're in is really going to matter much as to to the tournament. It's just a different deal. And 2 years ago, Ole Miss was the last in, and they won a national championship. And so we have that opportunity. So also, Collins corrected me. 5 teams at 13-17. It's LSU, South Carolina, Bama, Vandy, and Florida. Bama must have won last night then.
They did,
because I saw Auburn was up when I went to bed last night, and
it was hilarious. It was top of the ninth. Bama was up 12-5, and then it went an hour long weather delay.
Yes, that's what I saw. It was 12-11, and I thought that was it. Okay, so there's a 5-way. 5 teams at 13-17. So it looks like they probably all 5 of those teams are going to get in. And if LSU wins one in the tournament, it's sort of just an SEC tournament. It probably does it. So, in fact, if they win 3 or 4 in the SEC tournament, you might be able to get a second seed. And if you have a second seed, you do have the possibility if the first seed gets knocked out in another regional and they win it, they could come back home under certain scenarios. So maybe you never know. So go Tigers. Also, we had the Saints schedule. I know, Albert, you sent it to me in a week. I think you said five prime, 5 games that are not at 12 o'clock.
Yeah. So we'll be on in the fall and through January only 5 times. Because the rest of the time, I still don't get it, but WWL preempts us on Sunday mornings for Saints coverage from 8 to 10. And I don't understand the programming, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. That's right.
Yeah.
So they'll, looks like they're going to be facing a different, last year, the schedule, we didn't face many quarterbacks that threw a lot of fear into you. This year, I think it's a little different. I think it's a quarterback-driven league, and we're going to be facing some, a lot better quarterbacks. And even though the schedule quote is percentage-wise might be easier than an easier schedule, it's just a different year. It's just a different year.
I think we're going to have a better quarterback. It's going to be year 2. I think he's going to have a tremendously better offensive coordinator. I think he's going to have a couple of guys around him. They picked up a pretty good offensive lineman in free agency, a veteran. If you give Carr some time, we're going to be better than people think. But I like our record improving this year from last.
All right. I mean, my prediction today, which is subject to change, is 8-9, and I attribute part of that to Kirk Cousins, because I think Atlanta's going to be a different team with him. I think Tampa's going to continue to be competitive with Baker Mayfield. I think Carolina will not be very good, but
right.
I think the difference next year will be Kirk Cousins, and Atlanta will be a lot better. I mean, Atlanta won 7 games last year with no quarterback.
They were right in there. Yeah,
with no quarterback, and they do have some talent. So we'll see. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, and nothing would make me happier to say I was wrong. And but
let me tell you what. Be patient because it's going to look ugly early. Right, we got to go to Dallas in week 2. In week 3, we play the Eagles at home. Then at the Falcons. In week 5, we play at the Chiefs on Monday night. Mm-hmm. And so, I just, after that, the schedule levels out to some degree where you're not playing, some really great teams, but mostly within your division. But in the first 5 games, we could be 1-4 or 2-5, and with people calling for the heads of whatever. But give it a chance. New offensive scheme, playing some all really top tier playoff teams in the very beginning of the season. So be patient.
And that real quick, Albert, that stretch is going to end very, very heavy on the team. That 5, 6, and 7 with Kansas City tonight, Sunday at home, and Tuesday hosting Broncos at home with that is a 3-game in 10-day span.
Yeah,
that is a gauntlet to kind of end out the first half of the season. I think if they come out with 3 wins, maybe.
Yeah, well, and they play Green Bay December 23rd on a Monday night or Sunday night? Monday night, which Cullen said last year on December 23rd, 2023, the temperature was 24 below on Wednesday.
Right. It's at the Packers.
So that'll be, and we avoided that last year. We didn't have any cold weather games last year, but I think we played the Giants the 8th, if I'm not mistaken, also. So a couple of cold weather games. We'll see. I hope, like I said, I'd love nothing better to be wrong, and I'd love nothing better to have 10, 11, 12 wins, but that's why they play. We'll see. And plus, it's usually 3 or 4 plays. That's the difference between a 7-10 season and a 10-7 season, which will.
Yeah. So and then we do play the Commanders, and it may be the Redskins if the Tribe wins their lawsuit against the Washington team. for changing the name and disrespecting their heritage. But
They
that ought to
want to change. There's a lawsuit to change it back
yes, and it's by
by,
the
by,
you
by
know
the by the
by the
tribe.
head of the Indian tribes. Yes, how about that?
Yeah.
Because
All the people who were offended
non-people
by
with Indian
Redskins
heritage decided
are
that it
not
was
are not Native Americans.
yes, right.
So,
All these decisions. Here we
but
go.
here we go. I was going to veer into another area, but I'm not. Other I guess big news in sports and law, I guess, is Scotty Scheffler. With
Yes.
with his arrest before the PGA tournament. Now, if there's a choir boy in sports, it's Scott Scheffler.
Mhm.
I mean, there's probably not. He's probably in Tim Tebow type of, I guess, the way
Personality.
he lives his life. Yeah, it's Seth. And from what I understand, now we were at that tournament a couple of weeks ago,
Yep.
and it seems to me in reading the news reports that, and Colin brought this other factor up, that you have regular police and event police who and and usually the event police are out there, but for the fact they had a fatality. And so, and then you have PGA players in PGA cars that are marked, and also they get their own entrance, or they get, basically they get waved in while everybody else is in traffic. And it seems like, in putting the pieces together, that he was waved in by event police. Then you had the police who were working the accident stopped
Was
him,
fatality.
but right. So he received conflicting instructions, and he's got to get there. He's got to go to work. And apparently, the police officer attached himself to the car, and he was arrested. So I think it's going to come out as a big misunderstanding, and it's just
Here's
sort of
what I don't
ironic.
understand, Doug. Our Jefferson Parish Sheriff, Joe Lapinto, was at the golf tournament on Sunday. And how their sheriff of that county did not get that word immediately and take steps to diffuse it, to do whatever. They brought him downtown. They booked him. They put him in an orange jumpsuit. They did the whole thing. And I just can't believe that there wasn't a phone call made to say, hey, look, this is a misunderstanding. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe the officers doubled down on it and said, no, it wasn't a misunderstanding. I told him to stop. He kept going. And, we had a fatality and a lot of people standing around, and it was, somebody could have been hurt. And you don't know, but I can't believe that a phone call was not made to the sheriff saying, hey, sheriff, this is what's going on. The last thing that sheriff department wants is egg on its face, from a national story, arresting this guy. So,
Yeah.
But, who knows what the facts are, and we'll let them play out.
Sort it out. Just sort of, when I woke up, I think it was Friday morning, I said, Scotty Scheffler's been arrested. I'm like, what alternate world am I living in?
Yeah.
So, if you heard John Daly got arrested, or, you say, okay, I get it. But Scotty Scheffler, what are you talking about? So, and he actually went out and shot, I think, 5 under. He was two off. I think he was 1 or 2 off the lead after the first day. He faded it yesterday. And that's sort of, it's obviously distracting, but it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out, and hopefully, whatever happened. But it sounded like, he was waved on and stopped, waved on, stopped, and there you go. But all right, well, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Yeah.
Always live.
We didn't last week because we had our guests and everything. But do you have anything you and Albert diving into law wise?
I don't know. I was thinking about it now. I usually do what happened during the week, things that happened during the week. Yeah. I was going to talk about. Yeah. I don't know. No, I do, but I'm debating whether I should do it. 'Cause I was at the city council this week, and they had like 100 protesters there demanding the city council condemn the Hamas war, and somehow every issue that went before the city council was tied back to that. Like if somebody wanted to get an above ground swimming pool. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about that. It'll be interesting.
To help you or your client get back on track. 985-722.
I think I'm gonna do that because it's sort of interesting, and maybe we'll veer into that.
Or reach out to us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Hi, this is Tim with Go Tax Resolution.
Are you
Are you
overwhelmed with
overwhelmed with tax notices and don't know where to turn?
Well, Go Tax Resolution and our IRS agency specialize in tax will find the best solution
for you.
Give Go Tax Resolution a call today to schedule your consultation and make this the year to take back control. That's 985-722-1040 or visit us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Bobby Abraham here. The NBA playoffs have kicked off, but it's not too late to get into action with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to use on same-game parlays, live bets, championship futures, and so much more. There's no better place to get all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Not number 2 or 3, but number 1, that is FanDuel. Just go to FanDuel.com/ABR. That's HEDERT to get started. Because right now, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and WWL Radio.
Finding the perfect way to say when you marry them is hard. Finding a diamond engagement ring that will leave her future easy. Just head over to Oakland Heart Jewelers. Our dedicated staff will help you choose an engagement ring that is truly one of a kind. And here's the thing that surprises everyone. Oakland
Do you see that the I called them on Friday. Like American team, it's really them and Cowboys anymore.
Right.
You see that they have a football game.
Really? Like
They have a game on Sunday.
Time and money your family invested to capture family vacation.
They've got at least
Recording a lifetime of memories with commitment. And for this thousands of cameras required film or development.
Saturday week 16 game
to preserve your
have
family's
the Wednesday Christmas Day game.
require enough big investment.
Like they have a
Simple
game
and
on every day of the week.
affordable. 1 million families have trusted
to convert their analog owe it to your family to safeguard your memory.
Become your family's hero.
I mean, some of them are rough. Like they play week 16 Saturday the 1st of December, and then they play 4 days later on Christmas Day.
That's legacybox.com/value.
All things legal on www.fm.com and the Odyssey app. Connect with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. So I wanted to talk about something that happened this week, and I don't want to talk about why I was in front of the city council Thursday over an issue. and it was sort of a little bit of a high-profile issue. It's over and done with, but it was very interesting. Normally, I don't go in front of the councils anymore very, very often. It's just not my thing. And Orleans Parish is sort of not my home territory per se. But it was sort of interesting. We were in there, and usually meetings take 2 or 3 hours. They go through all the agenda items, and a lot of the agenda items are to give accommodations to people. Then also zoning issues. Somebody wanted it above ground, uh, pool or something in the area, or they need to get a modification of a roof, fencing, and all that sort of thing. And they had about 100 protesters at the meeting from Tulane and Loyola. They were Hamas, protesting the Hamas Israel conflict. And what they sat there, and if there's an agenda item, which they might be 40 or 50, you can get a card and you could speak about that particular agenda item. Like if it was a zoning change for apartment complex. If you were in the area, you can speak out why it would be good or bad, or why you're in favor of it, or why you wouldn't be. Well, they had these, I guess, about 100 protesters who held up signs and flags, Palestinian flags, and signs saying genocide. And what they would do would be is, let's say you had a request for a permit to place a above ground pool in an area that is prohibited, and you ask for a variance for whatever reason. They would put in there little cards and want to speak about it. And so either they would do one or two things: use those 2 minutes to condemn the Hamas war, or they would somehow tie the sort of benign ordinance to genocide. In other words, these developers buy materials from Jewish companies, and the Jewish companies finance the war, so you are conflicted with genocide. And also, they were demanding that the council pass a resolution condemning, quote, genocide in the Middle East. And they sat there for, so the council meeting went from about 2.5 hours to 6-7 hours, because they were injecting that issue in each of the action items, which are very benign, have nothing to do with anything that's outside of Orleans Parish. And, I was thinking, it's a very interesting strategy, whoever is doing this, is to amplify their cause by having 100 people sit there all day and demand that, whereas like the rest of us have families, we have jobs, we have responsibilities, and we can't sit there all day, and it gives a disproportionate view, where she's saying, is that, hey, it makes a minority seem not a minority, or what very few people may think, to amplify that. And I just found that very curious. I had some, personal curious thoughts, such as when we were in college, we wouldn't be able to sit somewhere for 7 hours every couple of weeks flashing signs, because we had jobs. I know you did, Albert.
Yes.
I didn't have time to protest. But
I didn't have time to study much to protest, right?
It was a very interesting strategy, and most of the people who spoke were very rude, very entitled.
And look, most of them that spoke were probably being paid. That probably was their job.
Yeah, maybe so.
So there's, a lot of this stuff is not organic. When people have, printed matching signs, like, for instance, you see a picket line, right, from a union, and the union and whoever the organizers put it together, and then it gave them these signs to walk and picket and protest, etc. Right? when you see that at a student protest, or what they're telling you is an organic student protest. These protesters are there because they truly believe in this cause, and they're going to make their own signs, or not even have a sign. They're going to get up and scream and yell and do whatever they do. But when you see all of this, it's organized. And when they started figuring out who these people were, they said 50 or 60% of them were not even college students. They were protesting on these campuses. So, out of the 200 folks there, I'm sure a lot of them responded to some sort of, Instagram post or whatever, saying, hey, if you want to come protest, make X amount per hour or per day or whatever, come on, we'll be here, and then they'll have a handful of them that chant the cause, and they give them the talking points, and they give them the pre-printed signs. It doesn't happen organically. It's orchestrated, it's organized, and there's money behind it. And so follow the money and you'll see, but let me tell you what, I think if they put a big gigantic jumbo screen out in front of these universities where these kids are protesting, and they show where where Hamas is decapitating Jewish children, and the 1,200 people that were mowed down at a concert innocently, and they show them kicking the heads of children around, playing soccer with them, I think they would change their tune. But those videos are out there and they exist, and this is really what's going on. It's a horrible situation, and it's been going on for thousands of years. But it's to then jump up and down and say it's the fault of the Jews.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing what they were saying, I was observing this, and I was somewhat disturbed at those tactics are interesting tactics, but they would tell the council, if you do not condemn this, you're complicit in this, which is really stupid, because there's nothing any New Orleans Parish city councilman can do about the Hamas war. And even if they had an opinion about it, it's probably not the venue to express the opinion, because the council is about potholes, it's about zoning, it's about police protection, it's about drainage, local drainage.
I can't imagine, but I can't imagine that there's not some rule within their protocol that says, if you don't speak on the subject after X amount of seconds into your 2 minutes, we're going to have you sit down and get someone else.
Well, they were
talking about a swimming pool. Talk about the whole Hamas thing for 2 minutes. That's crazy. You got to have some sort of control of your meeting.
I think they were that's probably why I'm not a politician, because I would probably shut them. I'd probably handle it different. They were very patient. I'll leave it at that. They were very, very patient. Not to say they were necessarily engaged. They just sort of rolled their eyes and said, "Okay, let's let them do this." But it was very interesting, and the way the protesters conducted themselves were very bad. I mean, very rude, very entitled, very you can be adversarial, but you can also still be, have some semblance of decorum. And, I think it was sort of eye-opening to me as to how strategic they were in doing this, and how it sort of was a strategy in order to be very disruptive, and a strategy to amplify a view that is not held, that is not commonly held by most. And so it was just very interesting that they would do that. I don't think they would get away with doing that in Jefferson Parish. I know they wouldn't get away with doing it in St. Tammany Parish, because I think they would probably deal with it a lot more.
Maybe the parish has the same benefactor. Some of the parish council people,
Yeah.
So who knows?
yeah, I just thought it was interesting, and I think one of the things we see is, most of the heart of our society, you know, doesn't have, they're worried about their families, they're worried about their jobs, they're working two jobs, they got responsibilities, they got civic responsibilities. They just don't have time to protest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but it's just an
All right,
interesting
that's
experience. I
great.
thought I might relate, and it's just sort of is what it is. But people can make their, I guess, own judgments about it. But let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
The station that gets you through hurricanes and everyday storms. The news, talk, and sports leader.
All right.
The Big 870, 105.3 WWL FM and WWL.com.
Monday morning on WWL, we will answer every credit
question
you have.
We'll take Jim.
Credit guru John.
I got you. His question was like, he said, the way he described it was, he was like, look, he said his landlord was aware of it.
Okay.
I was like, how is your landlord aware of it but not doing anything about it?
Okay. Well, it's all Orleans Parish, too.
Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com. Our psychics are available to talk 24/7, and we guarantee it's not life-changing, it's free. Experience the joy of certainty. California's
snakes, zombies, public speaking. The list of fears is endless. But the real danger is in your hand if you become real. Distracted driving is what's really scary and even deadly. Eyes forward.
Yeah, because he was like, I found out that the water service I pay for is like not only my bill, it's another unit's bill. And he was like, I haven't talked to them yet, but I'm wondering, is there going to be any legal remedy or recourse if I go to talk to them and they say, nah, I don't want to pay it?
Boom, family protected.
Okay.
What do I do then?
Online term life insurance up to $2 million.
He's like, I can't do that. I can't say, I don't want to pay it.
For a few health questions and
Right.
a free quote at
That is a doozy, and that sounds exactly up our alley.
They say diamonds are forever, but who can resist emeralds, sapphires, rubies, or pearls from Oakland Heart Jewelers? Choose from a vast selection of rings, bracelets, earrings, and necklaces with every price range. Along with all the latest from David Yurman, Penny Preble, Mikimoto Pearls, and Marco Bichigo, you can also select an exclusive Oakland Heart design for a lot less than you'd expect. One-of-a-kind gemstones at a one-of-a-kind price. There's a great work of art in every box from Oakland Heart on Metairie Road.
Being in the Army National Guard is about more than serving your country. It's about being there for your community when your neighbors need you most. The Army National Guard makes college affordable, and serving your country can help you graduate debt-free. Do you want to stay close to friends and family? The Guard allows you to serve close to home. Serving part-time in the Army National Guard lets you have the life you want. Learn more by visiting nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the Louisiana Army National Guard. Aired by the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Do you feel like you're going through life clouded by doubt? Talk to California. Our trusted and accurate psychics are available 24/7. We guarantee life. Download the app or connect with us at CaliforniaPsychics.com. Right now, customers get 80% off their first treatment. Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just
a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews. But now, we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie. And we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. A-N-G-I, or download the app today.
Now, more All Things Legal, underwritten by Nico and Sunseri Law Firm. All advice given and opinion given
solely those of attorneys Albert Nicaud and Sunseri.
Back to WWL.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. That was the Beach Boys, Surfing USA, 1962, 1963. One of their first. I think that was their first big hit. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Jim in Algiers. He's got a problem with his water service. Hey, Jim, you're on All Things Legal. What can we do for you?
Moved into this rental unit and water bill is really high. And so started thinking it was originally a 2-unit, and then they built something in the below. So the below it is, like 10 and a half, 410, 412. This is 410 and a half. Anyway, so I decided to call the water company just to see, hey, does this 10 and a half actually have a water service? All these water meters. And they said no. It's just just the 2. There's not 3 out there. So I guess my question is, and I'm hoping when I go to this other tenant that they'll be fair and want to make it home at the end. But obviously they know they're not paying for water. The landlord knows that there's not they don't have service there, and we're paying for that. And I don't know, maybe there is nothing legal because I just moved out. If neither one of them decide to do anything, I was just curious what y'all's take is.
Well, first of all, if you have a lease, you need to check to see what the lease says regarding a water bill, right? And who pays for the water. And if it's you, then it's you. If it's not, I would first contact the landlord and say, well, actually, I would contact the, how long has this been going on, first of all? Has it just been a month, or has it been for 6 months? Or?
No, so we've been in the place for about 2 years, and just to make it clear, we do have a water account with the water company. We're supposed to pay the bill. The problem is the unit below us is using our water out of our water meter.
And there you wait. What are those, like your hose or something outside? Or how are they? What is it? Separate meters, or is it one single meter for both units?
Correct. So it was originally.
That's 2 different questions. That's 2 different questions.
And they added. I'm sorry.
Hold on. There's 2 different questions. One question was, is it separately metered, or is it the same meter for both?
I've come to find out it's the same meter for both the units.
Okay, and you've been paying 100% all along?
Correct.
Okay. I would start by going back to the, first of all, check your lease, but then going back to the other tenant and say, hey, look, I've been paying this for the last 2 years. It's your turn. How about if you pay it the next 2 years instead of paying me back, you just pay it whatever. And if he doesn't want to do that, then I would go talk to the landlord and say, hey, this is what's been going on. I need you to get involved. And then if worse comes to worse, you can always bring an action against the other tenant. I guess an unjust enrichment would probably be, would probably be the cause of action, that you were impoverished and he was unjustly enriched by your paying his portion of the water bill.
And you could do that probably you're in Algiers, and I think there's second city court in Algiers, whereas it's not justice of the peace, but it's a second city court where under $3,500, if it's in dispute, you can file a claim and it'll be heard by an attorney. I think they have that on the East Bank. But anyway, there's a court of limited jurisdiction in Algiers where you can do that, and it's sort of like the people's court. You file a claim, and you go before a judge or someone who's appointed by the judge to hear that dispute. So it's a lot more informal, but you're able to address that particular issue.
Yeah, and again,
I wasn't sure. I would be mainly landlord who owns the property. He knows there's only 2 water meters, not 3 out there. And I would assume this tenant knows the water bill.
Right.
Be fair and start splitting the bill, paying the bill with me. So.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I think Albert's suggestion.
City court's jurisdiction is $5,000.
5,000. Okay. Yeah.
Their jurisdiction is $25,000. Their small claim is $5,000. You got anything up? You go to $5,000. All right. Well, good luck with it.
All right. Yeah. I think the suggestion was, which is a pragmatic one, to say, hey, I paid the past 2 years. Why don't you take the next 2 years and we'll be even? That would be a really good solution. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good.
Get the WWL show you love delivered to your phone.
I would say someone said for real, should say sign a veteran quarterback. We did.
Peterson. Plus, we signed and cut Mond, Kelly Mond.
WWL is powered by BetQL.
Would be.
Download the BetQL app.
4th round pick from last year.
We have another veteran backup.
Yep.
Maybe we can
Call
I'd probably feel okay. If our QB room looks like, Carr, Rattler, Hader.
Yeah, we got like 5 quarterbacks on our roster now.
Listen to this review from Vicky. I am one extremely happy customer. I never felt such warm, true, considerate, caring, and excellent customer service as I did today. Comfortable. And not once did they know how much I planned on spending.
Because they cared about my wants and what I was trying to accomplish. Thanks, Vicky. We value our customers' experiences. Natural diamond earrings from heart and brilliant to none. Each diamond is
How long are we going to have?
We buy direct.
Which means we can offer them to you at Oakland Heart. You'll find the perfect gift. Celebrate a love that's as enduring as a natural.
Okay.
It's a great one. Every box at Oakland Heart.
No, I'm not. I'm just going to make a little comment and we'll get out.
Same-day Botox
Available at Ryder's Plastic Surgery Group.
We all hear
the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you with the calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. CRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are.
now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. CRA can eliminate or reduce what.
Yeah, we'll have a little.
Generous programs are now available.
We're out of 5958 and we're back at
helping individuals fix their IRS problem. We have over 1,500 reviews on Google and an A+ with the Benefits Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of it.
End your tax nightmare today.
I've been trying to do, you said, baseball music. I've been trying to do the kind of songs you hear when you're like, walking up.
That's 800-555-6481.
Yeah, the walk up. Well, they all pick up their little.
No, I'm trying to think about
real people.
The songs
There's breaking news
Roy Graves, Center Fields. Those are the top 2.
What's going on right here by listening live and personally. Just download the free Odyssey app.
I got another one. Something music we're redoing. You can take it away whenever. I'm gonna let it run in the background.
On the free Odyssey app. AUD.
Come back here.
Well, that's good.
Baseball music.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Albert, the last caller sort of reminded me. I read an article this week that 2/3 of adult Americans will have a legal issue in the next 4 years. I thought about that. That's, we got 200 something.
I guess the second half of the question is, will they have a legal issue that they will hire a lawyer for?
Right.
Will they take it to that next level? I mean, we have legal issues all the time, right? And sometimes we ignore them. Sometimes they're just, it is what it is. Yeah, and look, get as much straight as possible on your way in, right? When you sign that lease, don't just sign it. Take a look at it, and if you need somebody to look at it, it might be worth a couple $100 to say, hey, look, can I get my lawyer to look at this and make sure it's, because a lot of times these landlords are like, look, take it or leave it. This is it. And then you got to make a decision, but at least you know what you're getting into. Another thing you want to definitely check on those leases is when you have to give notice if you want to renew, because sometimes it's 90 days out, and if you don't give them written notice 90 days out, then they can raise the rent on you, cancel the lease, they can rent it to someone else, all these types of things. So know what's in your lease.
All right. Well, we'll finish with hour number 1. We'll be back for hour number 2 and all things legal. Stay tuned for national news, local news. We'll be back on all things legal in about 10 minutes. See you then. Okay. Yes.
WLFM and HD1 Kenner, New Orleans. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
It's CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Linda Kenyon. The Morehouse College Glee Club starting off today's graduation ceremonies in Atlanta, where President Biden will soon deliver the commencement address. College President Dr. David Thomas expects there will be pro-Palestinian protests, but here's what he does not want to see.
Taken away during our before we would reach that point, I would conclude the ceremony.
The National Rifle Association once again endorsed former President Trump at the organization's annual meeting in Dallas. CBS campaign reporter Jake Rosen was at the event.
Donald Trump was endorsed by the NRA for the third presidential cycle here in Dallas. They were one of the groups that put him over the edge in 2016. Obviously, he is the most influential gun regulator in the country, even with their controversies and legal problems. Still stand strong among those Republican voters that also need to turn out.
Every town for gun safety released a statement saying that the NRA had a direct line to then President Trump and his administration while he refused to take action to prevent gun violence during his presidency. A new CBS News poll out this morning finds wide support for President Biden when it comes to abortion access, concerns about inflation and immigration, with Trump in Arizona and Florida. And that's just part of the findings.
Nationally, Donald Trump is having the mental and cognitive health of the president more so than Joe Biden is. And this is both
CBS's Director of Elections and Surveys. Crews in Houston, Texas are cleaning up and restoring power to more than 300,000 consumers following a storm Thursday that killed at least 7 people. National Weather Service says conditions are improving.
For the next several days, it's going to be relatively tranquil across Texas. So it doesn't look like we're going to have any chance for any additional thunderstorms. Probably Wednesday night and Thursday, mostly across Texas. Definitely a brief period of respite across the
AAA says almost 40 million Americans will drive for Memorial Day weekend, kicking off what is expected to be a very busy summer travel season. Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan says it probably won't impact gas prices very much.
It's certainly always expected that gas will be higher in the summer. It's some of the factors why the prices are generally higher. But it shouldn't have a necessarily big impact on prices. Gas prices are starting to decline in several weeks.
This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Uh-oh, Brad's buds. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the root.
And now a speed.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart. Heart and brain. Who's with me?
The good thing is, he knows what he's got.
And my brain is saying that it's time to go home. Somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy. Me too.
Know your buzz warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council. I can't believe taxes.
Your small accounting firm is growing in numbers.
Why didn't I take that typing class in high school?
A data entry specialist could really help him in a crunch.
I got blisters on my fingers.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
WL First News. I'm Dave Cohen on your official weather station.
Sunday is looking like a really nice day. We'll have plenty of sunshine. It will be dry, but much warmer with high temperatures soaring to the upper 80s in the afternoon.
WL TV meteorologist Alexis Critchler's full forecast coming up. The flight L-10 is dead after apparently jumping into Palm Lake to try and get something to get dropped. We hear from WWL TV's Whitney Miller.
Slidell Police and members of St. Tammany Fire District 1 rushed to the scene. Officials say to the lake to retrieve an item and never resurfaced. Divers recovered his body.
2 people were shot Saturday night on the west bank of Jefferson area. It happened near Westwood Drive in Herrera. Authorities said both victims were male and both described as life-threatening injury. The sheriff's office notified us before 9:30 p.m. State Fire Marshal have arrested a man at an old church building on fire. It was being used as a daycare center. They say he did it because his ex-wife owns the facility, caused damage to the building, and left 3 vehicles destroyed. The so-called
bathroom bill is awaiting signature.
Yes. Yep.
Transgender people from using school restrooms and other facilities that match their gender identity. Passed in the Senate 29-10.
No, it's not. No.
Here's a question: do you care about hockey at all? Never been?
No, I got a hockey puck from the Boston Bruins on my desk.
I'm not physically able to protect yourself
No, I'm not.
Silence shelter.
It's the final
week of school for most children in the greater New Orleans area. The largest school districts in the region, St. Tammany and Jefferson both have their last day of school this coming week.
Louisiana Education Superintendent Dr. Kate Brumley says the state ends the year, according to the U.S. News and World Report, with the 40th ranked schools in the country.
Certainly not happy not being number 40 in the nation, but we're moving in the right direction. And I think if we can continue to focus on some of these fundamental issues, we have a shot in the third, which for me as a lifelong native of the state, and for many others in your audience, it's kind of hard to fathom.
It's right next to City Hall. I mean, it's right next to the courthouse. It's right adjacent to City Hall, across the street.
Ranked 46.
It's the City Hall. It's attached to the one of the. Yeah, it's attached to the City Hall. Yeah. City Hall.
Got their first SEC season, 9-3 in the regular. I will say it's still kind of bad that our first and only chief was
Yeah.
record to 13 and 17.
It's like they had a hangover. It's like they had a national championship hangover.
No, it's like the first week or 2 of SEC play. Like slapped us, and it took a while for us to kind of get back up.
Giants going to be humid.
We had if it was a Boston match, the first time really put us on our ass, and then we kind of stood up a couple times. We had back down, and then
around 90 degrees every afternoon. Louisiana, I'm meteorologist Alexis.
WWL
First News.
From WWL,
the News Talk Sports Powerhouse. It's all things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud's Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Open Heart Jewelers Talk text line 504-660-1870 or connect
anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back. Hour number 2. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call 260-1870 or text us at Oakland Heart Talk and text line at 260-1870. And today is Archie Manning's 75th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So happy birthday, Archie. Now, as time moves on, we all have our moments when we think we're advancing in age. And I think one of the moments I had in the last couple of years was in our conference room, we have old pictures that you got from San Francisco, I think, or you ordered them, of great sports figures such as Y.A. Tittle, Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, Pete Maravich, and they basically go around the four walls of or two of the walls of our conference room. Mm-hmm. And one of the pictures is of Archie Manning. And I had a client come in, and he's asking about the pictures. And, of course, I will oblige and give them a lot more information about the players that they ever care to know. Right. And he points at Archie Manning, and he says, "Who is that?" And he's a Saints fan. I mean, he's like, Drew Brees. He was a big-time Saints fan. Yeah, he was in his late 20s, early 30s. I said...
Did he ask you who the Beatles were?
Probably not. And he said, I said, "That is Archie Manning." And he said, "Oh." I said, "He quarterbacked the Saints from 1971, 1982. And he said, "Any relation to Peyton and Eli?"
No way.
Yes. And I said, yes, they may know each other. But,
So he's not a real sports fan, though. He might be somebody. But you had to have seen the book of Manning. You had to have seen the commercials, right? The Caesars commercials. I mean, you had to have seen something with Archie Manning on it. That's crazy. Although, kids don't watch regular TV, so maybe they didn't see the commercial. Yeah,
exactly. Kids don't listen to radio.
Right.
I mean, they don't listen to us. Colin's the only guy who's under 25 listening to us right now. He's actually he's getting paid.
Exactly. Otherwise, he would not be up this early on a Sunday morning doing it. Yeah.
Right. The only way we put a young guy like Colin is if they're coming in from the night before.
Right.
So, but actually, I think the first time I saw Archie was in 1970. He played against LSU. For the SEC championship with a broken left arm. And LSU had won 61-17. And they won the SEC. It was a prime time ABC game, which was big because you only had 1 or 2 games a week that was being on TV, and that was it.
Right.
And I just remember I was 8 years old, and I just remember the "Go to hell, Ole Miss, go to hell," just ringing in my ears. And then the next year he was drafted by the Saints, and they played the Los Angeles Rams.
I was at that game.
The opening game. And
I was at the opening game.
And they were at the 1-yard line, 4th down with 3 seconds left, and he did basically a quarterback end run to the left. As soon as he got to the goal, he was popped, fumbled, but they called it a touchdown. You remember that? They won, I think, 21-20. And then they were like, Super Bowl.
I remember walking down the ramps at Tulane Stadium, and everybody's screaming, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl.
And then, thank goodness they didn't have instant replay back then. Because,
well, I mean,
who knows whether that would have been a touchdown or not.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Especially from my seats. We were way up there. But,
and I think he had his best year. he had his best year in 1979 as the Saints. They were 8-8. They had no defense, but they were like They had like a high flying offense at the time. They were like
no question about it. Yeah, Muncie and Galbraith and West Chandler, and man, they were loaded on offense.
And Henry Childs, they were just killing it. They just didn't have much of an offense. And
the defense.
So happy birthday to Arch, 75 years old. Tom marches on, and probably the first family of football for sure, and probably the first family in New Orleans.
And a heck of a nice guy.
Sure. 100.
Yeah, very
In fact, when you started working at USF&G, he was in the same building. Was he still there?
Actually, he came actually a year or two into it. He was like a public relations guy they hired to, and I'd see him in the building, and he was always very friendly and just he didn't know my name or who I was, but we'd say hi in the elevators and the hallways, and nice guy. I tell you, quick story. My buddy lived in Boston, and two friends lived in Boston. So my friend Tommy and I and one of the friend's brother, we decided we're going to go up to Boston to see him. Right. So I was in law school. So Friday, we go see Larry Bird score 50 points against Dominic Wilkin in the Boston Garden. My friend's boss was this big developer, so we had seats right at the tunnel directly across from Red Auerbach. He had the seats right at the tunnel on the other side. So the two tunnels, that was one of the reasons they got rid of the Garden, was because the tunnels that led to the locker rooms were at midcourt. And so anyway, we were sitting right there. We watched the whole game, spent the day in Boston Saturday. Sunday, we went to Foxborough to go to see the Saints and the Patriots. The Saints crushed them. Bobby Hebert was like some crazy score. Yeah. And so Archie was up in the booth. One of the Saints coaches threw us a football, so I grabbed the football and Archie signed it for us. And it was a lot of fun. It was, again, class act as he always is, nice as can be.
There you go. And so that's right. I was sort of, a lot of things that we talk about, things that probably happened to us during the week. And one of the issues we had is financial exploitation of the elderly. And
getting worse and worse, Doug. I tell you, I see it more and more and more.
And one of the things is there's a statistics that says there's more cases of financial exploitation of the elderly than there is child abuse, which will tell you, and a lot of things that the banks, the extra measures that the banks are putting in place. Yeah. And a lot of children,
you see it by their children more often. More often than not, it's by their children.
So a lot of times we're having. We had a situation where someone, generally, I'm not saying specifically, but a person who had problems in life. They had four siblings. One of the children had legal problems, criminal problems, drug problems, and the other three, and dad is in his 90s. And they're concerned about him getting into dad's checkbook,
right?
And to continue his habit, and also the cognitive decline of dad, whereby he doesn't really understand what he's doing, and they're asking, what can we do to make sure that his estate's preserved for him, and that the sibling won't rob him blind or liquidate his estate for his habit. So what are some of the things that you can do to be preventative? And if it's happening and you don't have these preventative measures, I guess there's an interdiction, but what are some of the things that a family can do to protect against that?
Well, that's really part of the problem, right? So we recommend it all the time. And I honestly think that, when we do an estate plan, we do, obviously, it's a will package, and the will package would include a will. And more importantly, it includes a power of attorney. So a power of attorney will govern through that person's lifetime. Upon death, the power of attorney ends, and then a succession representative would have to pick it up to handle the estate after the person dies. But it's so important to have a power of attorney for yourself, to grant authority to someone to handle your affairs in the event that you lose your capacity to do so. And I think that if you do it early enough, obviously you'll have to do it while you still have the capacity to do so. But if you do it early enough while you still have that presence of mind, that person you appoint as your agent obviously is someone you're going to be able to trust to handle things through thick and thin. Because what happens is probably what you're talking about in this situation with the older gentleman who's 90 years old. He doesn't realize probably his lack of capacity and would never want to admit it, because that generation is very proud and very self-sufficient. And so they don't want to give up that control. They certainly don't want to give up the keys to the car. And so what you need to do is have someone in place in the event that happens to you, to go to the bank and say, okay, I have this power of attorney. My dad's starting to lose it. Some days he's okay, some days he's not. I think we at least need to have a temporary check where he's going to write a physical check. He's got to do so, with me. I want to cancel his credit cards. He's up at night buying stuff off of Amazon or QVC or who knows what. And I'm spending all my days returning them. So those are the kinds of things that you can do preemptively. And again, with a proper power of attorney, it gives the agent under that power of attorney the right to obtain private information and deal with these government entities and other entities and financial institutions. For instance, just your medical record, right? Quite often a husband can't get a wife's medical records because of HIPAA violations and privacy laws and all that sort of thing. And so, these medical facilities want to cover their tracks, so they make sure that they have all the right folks, asking for the right records. And if you're not authorized to do so, they're not going to give them to you. And so you may need that information to make decisions about your spouse or loved one or the person that you're the agent for the power of attorney for. And so same thing with the IRS, right? You will need this power of attorney to go ahead and interact with the IRS or with the financial institutions or the banks or the brokerage houses and all those things. It just gives you the opportunity, the rights to do so in order to protect that person. And so if you have the opportunity, even if you have no idea and don't want to execute a will, I truly, truly recommend a power of attorney, and be thoughtful about who that would be, and make sure that person, has a little backbone, right? And that will make those hard decisions when they need to. So, but yeah, that's to me the best option. But if you're already, in terms of what does the family do, but if you're already in the situation, then I think it's time to have a conversation, with the bank, and maybe with the siblings, to say, hey, look, we might have to do an interdiction proceeding where we have to, and have the conversation with dad, right? I don't mean to be taking up too much time, but there's a cousin of mine whose dad lived well into his 90s. He was almost 100 years old when he died. And when I'm telling you, he was the most generous, the nicest man you ever met in your life. Well, so his lawn guy was like, hey, Mr. Such and Such, I need, $500 because I'm down on my luck. And so he would write him a check, and he would give him money, and he was giving money to all these people, and they were taking advantage of him. And so my cousin came to me and said, hey, what do I do? What do I need to do to protect it? And so the best thing to do is to get a hold of it. So he did, and he finally was able to, get his father's consent to take those things away from him. not give him authority to, you know, give all of his money away and spend everything.
You know, also too, if you have a suspected family members interacting with your, you know, with a parent or a loved one in that situation, you can also call the bank. And a lot of banks now are putting like alerts on the checking accounts where they see unusual activity for, you know, a geriatric customer, and they'll put a, you know, a red flag or a warning on a lot of these, and and the banks are, their position is this: if I freeze the check, we'll just freeze it until all this gets and sorted out. But the banks are concerned that if they've been put on notice and then they have this fraud, they might be responsible for the cost of the fraud. So they're also hyper vigilant when it comes to that. Talk about this before we go to a break. Also, too, if you do get a power of attorney and you are concerned about possible fraud, it's
By the agent?
by third parties per se,
Okay.
and the agent, or if you had a prior family member who had a power of attorney before, and they got a new power of attorney because the first agent was not handling the money right, it would be a good idea to file that power of attorney with, you know, with the clerk of court.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then if there's any question, then of course the banks and the institutions are going to rely on the most recent, right, the most recently dated power of attorney. But the way you protect yourself and the banks protect themselves is by checking the records of the clerk's office to see what's put on file, because those can be recorded, and then they will know that, okay, here's what we have to rely on. We have the right to rely on the public records. And so since this has been recorded, we now have the right to rely on that. And so we're operating in good faith by interacting with this person who's been given that power.
Now, another thing too, what banks are doing is, let's say an agent had a power of attorney that's 10 years old, and it's been in effect. A lot of times, a lot of banks are asking for a certification from the attorney who did the power of attorney that the power of attorney, to the best of their knowledge, is still true and is still valid.
Right.
Because what happens is, if you had a principal who switched agents on a couple of times, you know, maybe they had one daughter 1 year, and a couple of years later they had their son. The bank can't determine, you know, is there an intervening power of attorney that we don't know about. So a lot of times banks will ask for some type of verification that this power of attorney is still in full force and effect, and they had not been intervening power of attorney. But the banks, a lot of the banks are now, I think, because of the liability they have incurred, is that, you know, that they knew or should have known of the financial abuse. When in doubt, they're going to freeze the account and stop everything until they can sort out exactly what occurred. So, you know, it's just amazing. And I think the other dynamics, which is very interesting, is the generation, the baby boomer generation, was coming out of Depression, World War II, and they were savers. I mean, you know, we would see a lot of estates where, you know, individuals may not have made more than $15-20 an hour, but they had $1 million in their estate, because they were very judicious in saving their money through our lifetime. And however, our generation, you know, are spenders and consumers. And also, the family structure was a lot more intact back then, whereas now the family structure, you know, might have come through 2 or 3 changes, which were financially devastating. So you have a scenario where the generation that is, you know, in their late 80s, 90s were savers, and their children were spenders, and they see the parents as
the bank
solve their debt problem. And so that dynamics is really manifesting right now, and it's a big problem. But there are a lot of preventative measures you can do to proactively, if you see it happening, to stop it. Because the reality is, if you have someone who has maybe a $500,000 estate and somebody stole 400,000 of it, you'll never collect it back. It's gone. And at least if you catch it in the beginning, even if they took a little bit, when that parent passes, you can reclassify that money at least as an advance, so you can equalize everyone else. Which is happening more and more often. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, we'll be right back after this. Please come up.
WWL, home of the LSU Fighting.
We got another caller. That's why I wanted to get
Okay, who's the other caller?
So we're gonna have up with us Malcolm Hammond, who's got a question about we also had a text message that I was gonna bring up later in the show. It's something that we can nibble on right towards the end of the show. That's something we do after the 50 break. Someone said Archie Manning never had a winning record as an NFL quarterback. Peyton Manning is the best quarterback of the Mannings.
I agree. Take back control of your tax situation. Call Go Tax Resolution, the local one-stop answer to help you or your clients get back on track. Call 985-722-1040. Reach out to GoTaxResolution.com. That's GEAUX TaxResolution.com.
Hi, this is Tim with Go Tax Resolution. Is this the year to solve your tax debt issue? Have you gotten notices from the IRS? Put an end to your sleepless nights. Call Go Tax Resolution, your local tax resolution specialist. We work with accounting firms, individuals, and businesses alike. Go Tax Resolution is here to help. Call 985-722-1040. That's 985-722-1040. Or reach out to us at GoTaxResolution.com. GEAUX TaxResolution.com. Come on down to the Silver Slipper.
Hi, this is Chad from the Silver Slipper, and I just want to tell you about a very special promotion we're doing here. Now, when you play here at the Slipper at any time on any Monday through Thursday, you'll be earning entries to win your share of $500 in cash at 7 p.m. each night. That's right, 5 lucky guests will each receive $100 in cash at 7 p.m. every Monday through Thursday night. So come on down to the Slipper and earn your chance to win. We're on the beach here in Hancock County, Silver Slipper Casino. We are proud to be your host on the coast.
Have a good time at the Silver Slipper.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info at 800-790-1400. 800-790-1400.
If you're building a new home or buying a new home from a builder, you need to be aware of Louisiana's New Home Warranty Act. It sets forth strict deadlines to make claims against the builder and defects on construction. If you don't provide the builder with proper notice, you can lose your right to make a claim. This is Albert Nicaud with the Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Call me at 504-837-1304 as soon as you decide to make a defect. Better yet, call me before you sign your construction contract and let me make sure you're protected.
Business owner doing your own bookkeeping? Why? It makes no sense, literally. Focus on what you do well, like growing your business, and let Accounting Services Unlimited handle your bookkeeping. Hi, this is Thomas Fontes. Accounting Services Unlimited is insanely affordable and will come to you. Accounting Services Unlimited. 504-717-6253. That's 717-6253. Or visit us at asq-llc.com. All things legal with Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL. Odyssey Station. Connect now on the Open Heart Jewelers Talk and Text Line. 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Malcolm from Hammond, right? The home of Coach Kim Mulkey. Hey, Malcolm, what do you have for us, brother?
You got a question about will. There's 4 siblings. Youngest, oldest, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 grown children. 3 has a will that leaves everything to sibling 4. Okay, but there's nothing in the will that if sibling 4 predeceases 3, what happens to the
Well, if it's intestate, it would go to the children of the deceased sibling. Right.
Three has no children, but everything's left to 4. If 4 predeceases 3, does it go to the heirs of 4, or is it then spread between 1, 3, and 4?
Okay, and 3 has no children.
Right.
And there's no provision in a will that would say where it would go.
I don't see anything that names anybody else.
Okay.
Does it use the word representation or stirpes, STIRPES, anywhere in the will? The reason is, if I leave something to you, and I want it to go to your children in the event of your death, in the event that you predeceased me, I will leave it to you by representation, or per stirpes is another term. And basically what that means is that in the event of your death and you predeceased me, I'm not going to go back and rewrite a will. I want your children to have what I designated to you in the will. So if there's no provision for that, it just says, I leave it to Brother Joe, and Brother Joe predeceases, then it's a lapsed legacy. It falls in intestate heirs and taking. So it would go to all the siblings. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to look for representative.
Yeah, by representation. Yeah, by representation of stirpes, STIRPES.
Okay. Because they do have a common disaster.
Yeah, the common disaster. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. I mean, generally, because you sort of have to look at the whole will in totality. But yes, the common disasters for usually it says if one of the heirs dies within 180 days, then they'll have considered to have predeceased the decedent, and you would probate as if they had. So, but what you're saying is the third. There's no provision that's made for the third heir in case of him being predeceased, so therefore his portion would be intestate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If 4 is deceased and 3 dies, then unless representative or to go to 4's heirs, that would be between the rest of all heirs.
Correct. Yeah, and look for the word STIRPES. It's Latin. It means by branches. So which means it would be split up by the siblings, and their descendants.
And if 3 wants to change, they would have to do a new will, or
well, they could do a new will. Yeah, they could do a new will. Go back to that same attorney, and it'd probably be pretty easy and inexpensive.
Chat for info.
And then the other thing they could do is a handwritten codicil, right? It needs to be in their handwriting,
property damage issue with an
and signed at the bottom. And it's called an holographic will or an holographic codicil, and they can go ahead and say, look, in the event that this person predeceases me, I want that legacy to go blank. Sign it, date it, and it's valid. It's a little more of a pain in the butt to prove it up, but it's not that big of a deal and save you a trip to the lawyer. The better thing to do would be to go in and just probably reevaluate the whole thing at this point and have the lawyer give you advice as to what options you have and what you might want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
right.
Thanks for the call. Let's do this. Let's go to John from Metairie. He's got a question regarding property damage due to a neighbor's tree. Hey, John, you and All Things Legal. What can we do for you?
Yes, my neighbor has a tree, and I'm pretty sure it's got termites as well. If it falls from my house, is he responsible or legal for any damages?
Okay, so if the neighbor is aware that the tree has a defect, then the answer is yes. The whole strict liability thing is kind of out the window. If there is a defect, if the tree is dying, if it's got termites, if their limbs are dying, and it's obvious, or you've examined it and had perhaps an arborist maybe take a look at it from your backyard and say, hey, I've looked at the tree and I think the tree is diseased. It's got termites. It's in it has a risk of falling. Then they've been put on notice, and you send that to your neighbor and say, look, I'm asking that you trim your tree or do something with that tree because it's a hazard to my property, and save a copy of that letter in the event that something does happen, even in the midst of even after a hurricane. They were put on notice that there's a defect on the premises, and they failed to correct it.
Okay, I'll do that. I appreciate your help.
All right, thank you. Let's go to break. That's Sunseri and Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, All Things Legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
WWL, home of your
awkward, but whatever. Yeah, the Lions position blown up. People are finally waking up, I guess. Yeah, they got out of church or something.
How many people are so popular they get like one name?
Yeah, because we had Malcolm, then we had Two. So up next we got Edward from Hammond. I don't know if you guys know this type of law, but he says he has a question about injury law. He wanted some advice on it.
Yeah.
And even now, I embrace change.
And then Edward from Hammond wanted some advice about injury law. We have David from LaCrosse. He said he's getting up to age a little bit. He might have, I don't think he has a house and a rental property. He does have to come in over some. He has to sell those.
All right, I got it.
I'm not here to do that. Tax advocates is different.
Here I am here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000,
you guys both were off the mic, and I wasn't sure if you guys I moved some stuff.
No matter where you are, call now.
We didn't come back, and I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs. I guess I got to answer this question.
What you owe to the IRS.
Programs are now available
that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals their IRS problem. We have over 1,000 reviews on Google and an A+ for the Better Business Bureau.
Honestly, it can probably take
any longer.
either one is like
That
sounds like
that's 800.
6481. Tax.
Yeah, I know. I'm going home. I'm doing yard work. That's my day.
Yard work.
Saturday morning.
Going home. I'm doing some yard work.
What part of your chores at home?
I'm working out. Come on.
Do you like? Is that like a chore or is it not chore?
No. I actually like doing it. I like the satisfaction of it. I like really well on days after I do.
Buy direct. Tata, middleman. There's a great work of art
Yeah,
in
we
every box from Oakland Heart. Our Metairie
I was a maintenance guy and a land like cut grass at an apartment complex.
Yeah.
My boss asked me,
You know
"How do
there's
you
a
do in
generic
school?" I
form of
said,
Viagra that works
"I'll
just
do
as
pretty
well,
good."
but is
He says,
95%
"Thank goodness."
And you can go online at hims.com/joy.
Dude,
You get a free medical consultation to determine
I
the
like it. I
medication
like
is
it.
fit
It's
for you.
simple.
It's free shipping in
No,
first
I
round.
know.
I put in some headphones on.
Online process and a range
Well,
of treatment
everybody has a different
at up to
therapeutic method of,
No, they do. They do. Everybody.
like in our neighborhood,
to a licensed medical provider
we have
with zero
a
copay.
lot of a lot of men who every Saturday,
Free online
and
visit,
and I can see it's therapeutic.
exclusive address,
And
hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy
we all have our
for your
therapeutic
free online visit. hims.com/joy.
You know your customers.
And so I know.
Fridays.
Monday takes a little cream.
Because I told my
Honestly, one of the reasons why I'm started looking out of it because I'm scared about how I look, so that's a benefit. I mainly am doing it because I sleep better and I
sure, absolutely.
To get your media plan done right.
Absolutely.
Ads like social media campaign, search engine optimization, and location-based advertising. Advertise with Audible and help us grow your business. Visit ads.audible.com.
All things legal on WWL. Consult with Nico and Sunseri now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870. And don't forget to rewind on the Odyssey app.
Hey, we're back. That's Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. Saturday in the Park, Chicago. I think that was 1973, 71. They got to number 2. All right, let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Edward, again from Hammond's. Got a question regarding injury law. Hey, Edward, what you got for us, brother?
4 years ago, I broke my back working in a building on a large piece of property. Anyway, of course, a year goes by, I don't hear nothing from the owner. So I filed a suit. Come to find out that they wouldn't give the attorney's name, said they want to handle it in-house, and they're owned by a trust. Is that a dead end?
Okay. So what's your question?
No, I mean, is that more or less like the end of the road if it's, can you sue a trust, or sounds complicated?
Well, I mean, did you file the lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, and the lawsuit, okay, and what's the status of the lawsuit?
Honestly, I have no clue. The last I heard from the attorney, it was owned by a trust, and the owner wouldn't respond. He said he was handling it in-house, and that's the last we heard from him.
Well, I mean, he's got a lawsuit. He's got to file a response to it. And did he have insurance? Do you know that? Did he have any kind of insurance on the property?
Well, yeah, but he wouldn't. He said he was handling it in-house. He didn't want to give his insurance company.
Okay, well then, I mean, whether he wants to give it or not, once you get sued, you're going to be compelled to give it at some point. What I would do, and what I would suggest you do is call your attorney, ask for an appointment, and sit with him for ask him to sit with him for 45 minutes and find out the status of his status of your lawsuit, and have a list of questions that you have. You know, were they served with the lawsuit? Did they respond to the lawsuit? Did you submit what we call discovery to find out if they have insurance coverage? Do they have insurance coverage? How much insurance coverage do they have? Where are we in the lawsuit? Do we have trial dates set? When do you anticipate a trial date to be set? I think you got to sit with your attorney and ask him all these questions. You know, what is your plan of action for the future? So I would call and make an appointment with your attorney and ask him the status. And have a list of questions. Yeah.
Keep in mind that your lawyer works for you. Right? The lawyer is going to get paid, and even though the payment's coming perhaps from a third party, they're employed by you. You have the right to go to a different attorney if that attorney is not giving you the satisfaction you need or responding to your inquiries timely. Right now, we typically, when we sit down and meet with a client, we will set expectations early. We let them know that litigation can take a long time. It's frustrating. It's very burdensome. You know, if they ask you for a bunch of discovery, we want your text messages, we want this, we want that. They typically have a right to get just about all of that. So, you know, you're going to have to go comply. And so it's not just, hey, let's file suit and get a bunch of money. And it does take time. There's, you know, lawyer schedules, court schedules, you know, things that we're waiting for your injuries to resolve themselves so we can figure out exactly, or at least maximum medical improvement where you're not going to get any better. So then we have the opportunity to make sure that you're going to get the most recovery from your claim. So there's a lot of factors on both sides, but, you know, if the lawyer thinks that it's not a really good case, then he needs to come clean and say, look, I don't think you have a real good case. I think we ought to try to settle it for something less. And here's why. And if you're not satisfied with that reason, then maybe talk to someone else.
All right.
Yes, I'm getting up in age. I'm 59 years old, you know.
Oh, you're not that old.
I'm not getting no younger.
No, you're not that old. Stop that, man. You got a lot of right to live. Stop that.
Appreciate your time.
All right, bro.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Edward. Hey, man, 69 ain't old. Let's go to.
The closer I get to it, the
This
younger that becomes.
It ain't old. Let's go to David in Laplace. He's got a question regarding property damage. Hey, David, what you have for us?
I'm 69 years old too. Well, I got a question. Got a rental property. And get up in age, will I have to sell that property? And because I think Georgia, how much money you got to bank, right? I just wonder if you have to sell that rental property if I go on a
well, let me put it this way. Are you talking about long-term care for Medicaid or just private pay? Well, I mean, private. There's private pay, because if you're in a private pay home, they're going to make sure before they admit you that you have an income source or money to pay for it. And if they don't, they'll ask someone else to guarantee payment. So, in the context of a private pay, you know, if there's admission, they're going to want to make sure that there's an income source to pay for the monthly payment, either through, you know, Social Security, pension, you know, available assets, and yes, to certain, those would be assigned. So if they don't think you have enough to pay, they're not going to admit you. All right, now, if you're talking about long-term care for Medicaid, a rental property, real quickly, there's two. You have to have less than $2,000 of countable assets in order to be Medicaid. But there's certain criteria that's not counted against Medicaid, such as your home, your car, and your personal belongings. I'm giving. So basically, if you have if you have more than less than $2,000, but you have a $500,000 home and a Mercedes, you qualify for Medicaid because your home and your car, or equity in your house and your car, doesn't count against Medicaid entitlement for long-term care, but cash does. Now, a second rental property would count as a countable asset. So as long as you had the rental property, you would never be eligible for Medicaid long-term care, and you'd have to sell it and spend it down. So those are two different contexts. It's probably an hour conversation that I'm trying to break down in about 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah, and the second thing is too, depending on what the income is on a monthly basis from the rental property, that may, you might want to keep that. Yeah, it might be an asset to go towards payment of the private pay that Doug was talking about. Let me ask you, did you serve in the military by any chance?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, because there's some benefits that might be available for you there to help supplement that as well.
Can I just give it to my daughter and be free with it?
No, because that's not going to help you, because there's a 5-year look back.
You can give it to them now. You can give it to her now and hope you live another 5 years. And if you do, the look back period is passed, right? So the 5-year look back period for donations and transactions to spend your wealth down. So if you donate that to her now and then just let her, you handle it, you get the income from it. And then, at some point you go into a nursing home, then you don't have that asset anymore. But double check, if you've got retirement benefits or pensions or any of that stuff, that's all going to factor into it too. So you may be donating it for nothing.
Right. What you really have to do is sit down for about an hour. You go through all that because there's a risk reward. And what happens is when you start donating property like that, you lose control of it. And that has its own issues to it. So what basically we do is give you the information, give you the alternative. There's a pro and con to each decision. There's a trade-off for each decision. And then you got to look at the trade-offs, pro and con, on each decision and decide what's best for you. And I say this very coldly, in a way, you can't make the perfect estate plan unless you knew when you're going to leave this earth. That's the only way you could. So you have to deal with possibilities.
What your financial condition would be when you leave the earth.
Yes.
Yeah, that factors into it as well.
Yeah. So what you try to do is look at the possibilities and you pick a plan because you're going to have a downside to either plan you pick. There's going to be some downside to it, and what you have to do is weigh what is the potential downside that is outweighed by the potential benefit, and that's usually the way you go. But it's really a very, very complicated question to ask in a very short context. But there are a few principles that we talked about. But you really have to sit down for an hour and a half, go through the rules, understand the rules, go through what your assets are, and then you make the call. But so that's the best way of doing that. But it's not simplistic. It's very holistic, and one decision has to be integrated with all your other decisions, or it could be counterproductive. All right, Dave, give us a call if you have any questions. We can sit down and talk to you about it. 504-837-1304, 504-837-1304. Let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. We'll be right back.
Get the WWI shows you love and sprint for your free. Download the
That's a good call. That's like about 2 hour and a half session.
No, I know. Like the more you got into it, the more I was like, go to talk to someone.
Yeah.
This isn't like 5 minutes. I'm gonna turn and get out. This is another day.
No, that's what I said. This is basically you gotta see somebody sit down with it because there's no.
If you think you've done your family a
quick
favor
fix
by
to
buying
this.
time,
No, and there's so. I mean, and it's one can of worms, and the deeper you get into it, you find other can of worms.
Right.
So we're back to
when you can raise your annual maintenance fees at will. I recently helped a couple that had their maintenance fees go from $800 to $3,200 a year. They also received a $4,000 assessment for a hurricane that was over 1,000 miles away. Sound crazy? Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee you can't timeshare or pay nothing.
One out of your timeshare. Call now for your free timeshare active info kit. 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333. Rejuvenate your workout with Rejuvenate. Rejuvenate Medical.
Flow Resources, complete employer solutions. FlowResources.com. At California, how much will a psychic cost?
What do you think?
What do you?
Glory days.
What?
Glory days. Bruce Springsteen.
Value.
Glory days.
Psychics have a wide range of psychic.
Glory days.
You can't decide, our dedicated customer service team are always available to guide.
We're back in 30. I would be remiss if we didn't mention, and we haven't, LSU softball in the regional today.
On your life situation.
All right.
In fact,
We got to.
I got you.
We don't draw the line at men's. Like, it's LSU.
No, I know. I got you. I
a
do.
better time to take the next step.
want me to tee it up.
Come back, experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
Hey, we're back. Sunseri and Albert Nicaud, you weekend lawyers, all things legal. When Albert hears this song, he thinks about his glory days, 1979, St. Paul quarterback, probably leading rush. Leading rush. That passer QB passer rating at 30 something was.
Yeah, it was pretty. I think it was negative numbers actually.
All right. Okay, LSU softball playing for regional finals today. Just need win 1 or 2. Got that in, Colin. And we got about a minute to go. Albert, what you got for us before we sign off?
We will be on next Sunday. Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
And so, tune in Sunday morning and should have some more info on some sports things that we talked about. And, and I know in June, Doug, you'll be on a special guest for that as well.
Yes.
And we enjoy doing this on Sunday mornings and appreciate the calls.
That's right. Especially an article saying 2/3 of our dog wagons will have a legal issue statistically in the next 4 years. So there we go. And more importantly, we'll get you ready for the LSU baseball as they enter the SEC tournament, and NCAAs. I think they're there. I think they're absolutely there. So you can give us a call at our law firm at 504-837-1304, 504-837-1304. If you have any questions or want to talk about anything we talked about today, we'll be glad to talk to you about it, and we'll do that. Also, this is the first weekend on a Sunday. Don't stay tuned. There's no LSU baseball later today, so hey, stay tuned anyway, and
keep it right here on WWL.
That's right. So we'll see you next week on All Things Wood.
Pretty good. I cut it there because Albert was like, keep it here on WWL. I thought that was a good ending.
Gotcha. All right. We'll see you.
Yeah, I'll catch you next week. Hopefully, we'll have a better. I mean, obviously, we won't know because I think the bracket for the NCAA tournament won't be released until the Monday after.
Yeah.
College Glee Club starting.
So we won't, we'll have estimates. I will say, if LSU's one and done, or if they win like 4 games, they're in. Okay, like we know they're in. They're probably already in, and we can just kind of take shots in the dark as to who they might be playing and how that could shake out. But and hell, who knows? Maybe next weekend. What today's the 19th. 23rd through the 26th is the super regional for softball. I mean, LSU could be, softball could still be kicking.
Yeah.
And NBA finals, we could be staring down the barrel of who's in the finals at that point.
Yep.
So we'll have stuff to talk about.
All right. I'll be listening to you this week.
Wait. Another thing, we didn't mention it at all, and it's something we'll absolutely cover next week. Saints OTAs start Tuesday.
Controversies and legal problems.
I didn't mention that at all.
I know. Everybody
turn out.
Every town for guns.
I'm not a big.
I'm telling you, that's something we're gonna talk. We're gonna have to talk about that.
No, I know. I don't think you can draw a lot of conclusions.
No, nothing yet. But it's nice to see who's there.
It's nice. It's nice to
finds wide support for President Biden when it comes
it's nice to be talking, watching any form of football.
No, I know. It's nice to get back on that routine. But you go get out of here. Go enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Okay, sounds good.
Nationally, Donald Trump is seen as having the